Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of the greatest movies never made. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Presky, joined by Adam Spring.
Hello.
And today we're joined by our very special friend, Eli Berman.
Yo, 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 what's going on, people? Happy to be here.
We're happy to have him, Eli Berman, the Big Burr, that's what we call him.
Burr City.
Today we're going to be talking with some friends, and we're going to be jumping into Planet of the Apes, the franchise, and the unproduced, unfilmed Oliver Stone's Return of the Apes. This would have starred Arnold Schwarzenegger and would have been pretty awesome.
I would have loved to have seen that. Anything with Arnold, really.
It was right at the height of his power too, 1996.
His power.
Well, this is when all the big movies had come out.
I mean, you think high with his power, but now he's in politics. I mean, how much higher can you get?
He's out of politics now. They don't want him anymore.
He's still a handsome fella, nevertheless.
But yeah, this was right after like all the Terminators, before Terminator 3. He just started doing, well, the film he did instead of this was Jingle All the Way. This was the downfall, 1996. And then he did Batman vs. Robin, or Batman and Robin. So not some great films.
No.
We're going to jump into it, but first, I'd like to say thank you, Eli Berman, for our beautiful musical intro.
Yes, the creator of the intro to the greatest movies never made.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate the little shout out. Yeah, basically Ryan asked me to put something together, and I got the creative juices flowing. One thing led to another. Put it together in about 90 minutes, and that was that. I'm happy to help out any way if I can. I'm a huge fan of the pod, so keep it up, boys.
Oh, 90 minutes. Now I feel bad. I thought it was way faster than that.
So you have an hour and a half of your time.
It's pretty great, though. And we're going to take up another hour and a half of your time right now. So before we get into the Oliver Stone film, let's jump right in and talk about 1968's Planet of the Apes, directed by Franklin J. Schaeffer, starring Charlton Heston as George Taylor, Roddy McDowall as Cornelius, Kim Hunter as Zira, James Whitmore, Maurice Evans, and Linda Harrison.
I loved it. I had never seen it before, and I thought it was pretty great. I mean, obviously the effects were awful.
No, the effects are really good.
Well,
I thought.
I mean, I guess for 1968, but watching the monkeys kiss each other in those clearly plastic masks just like smushing into each other, it's ridiculous.
We're going to get into some notes on the film, and I had that exact note. I wrote, apes kissing looks like smashing two dolls' faces
Yeah,
together.
it's ridiculous.
It looks terrible. But besides that, the practical effects of the apes look really good.
What do you mean by that?
They kind of they look like apes.
I mean, I guess so. It's just kind of just hair on their arms now.
Yeah. I also took a note. It kind of sucked that they didn't act ape-like,
Yeah, I would have liked to see that.
They barely hunch. Some of them hunch a little bit.
Well, to be fair though, yeah.
No, I think that's a great point. I was certainly like really impressed with given of when it was made, how realistic it seemed. But that said, I actually didn't even realize that until Prusky pointed that out. But how they don't really act ape-like at all, and even when they're running, like there's a couple of chase scenes and they're running, they run like people, small people, but people. So yeah, that's definitely a good flaw to point out.
I don't know if I call it a flaw though, just because it's supposed to be the year 4000, and based on the storyline, I mean, it started around the year 2000, the whole rise of the Planet of the Apes, I
Yeah.
guess.
That's what I thought too. Maybe it's just that they've evolved
Exactly.
so much that now they're walking like humans. But still, I would have liked to see them a little more ape-like. Let's talk about some notes on the film. So right away, the visual portrayal of space is not great. That's what I noticed for the effects. Like space doesn't look great, especially with 2001 coming out the next year.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, I didn't really, like I said before, I didn't think many of the effects were that great. I mean, it looked fine. I mean, it wasn't like ruining anything because like I said, I thought it was a great movie, but I don't know. I wasn't that impressed with any of those.
So it starts with a bunch of astronauts on a mission crash landing on a mysterious planet in the year 3978. When McDowell plants the American flag, you know that one scene?
Hmm.
Charlton Heston has this weird laugh,
Yeah.
and I was trying to figure out what it meant, and I couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it means anything. I think it was just supposed to be a joke, like because they think they're on a new planet. It's like the moon landing, I guess, right? To them, excuse me, to them at least.
The moon landing hadn't happened yet.
Well, I think the way I interpreted the laughter was that I think Charlton Heston kind of had this personality that he was the tough guy, didn't give a fuck, and he was there to stay. Whereas the other guy, I'm forgetting the character's name, but the one who planted the flag, he was a little nervous, a little tentative, and when he plants the flag, that's like kind of him trying to like show a sign of solidarity and strength. And Charlton Heston was like, "Oh, buddy, like that's cute, but you don't even know what you're in for." That's how I interpreted the laugh. It was very strange though, and kind of like really loud, like loud. It just seemed kind of out of place, but yeah, that's how I interpret it.
Very manic. He was.
Yeah.
It was a very manic laugh. But yeah, the moon landing hadn't happened yet.
When was the moon landing?
1970, 1969.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, either way, though, I mean, the sentiment would be the same, though. That they're kind of just claiming it as their own, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what I was
I
saying.
get. Yeah, the sentiment was always there, planting the flag, right?
69 is when it
Yeah.
happened, yeah?
That's what I remember when we talked about 2001. It was so interesting that they had a portrayal of what Earth looked like, and we've never seen what Earth looked like until later that year.
Yeah, the moon landing was July 20th, 1969, if you believe in it, that is.
Well, I mean, I certainly don't, but kidding, obviously. Well, yeah, that's. I mean, I didn't really even considered what Berman had said.
No, it's a good point for sure. I also noted that there's a lot of male ass shots, and I think at one point we even see side Heston cock. And this is
At
a
what point?
G-rated movie.
There was a lot of male ass, but what point? When did that happen?
I swear when he dives in the lake at one point, you see some side cock.
I don't think I noticed that, but that's interesting. I might have to go back and take a look.
Yeah, to be honest, it's funny you say that because that was one of the things I wrote down. Like during that swimming scene, I was like thinking to myself, "Holy fuck! Like, am I about to see a bunch of dongs right now?" And I didn't even notice the side cock, but you very well that could have happened, man. I guess maybe I was looking as closely as perhaps some other people were, but nonetheless, it was yeah, I was a little taken aback. Nothing wrong with it, but
I was hoping to see some more dong.
I honestly I wouldn't be surprised because I thought I noticed a nip slip at one point when they were shoving a bunch of the prisoners into cages and stuff.
And it just slipped by the rating system.
Yeah, I mean it was 1968.
Yeah.
Remember there were subliminal messages in all sorts of movies and stuff. I
Well,
wouldn't be
they also didn't
surprised.
have PG-13 ratings then. It was basically just G, PGR, I think.
Right.
So the rating systems were all whack.
I wouldn't be surprised if they, I don't know. I thought I noticed that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously in the new franchise we see it, but Apes on Horses was pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, I liked that. The whole the hunt.
Yeah, and then when they take pictures over the dead bodies, like hunters would do.
Yeah, like their prizes.
So in this film, they're using humans for medical treatment, brain surgery. So kind of animal testing, a little
Hmm.
flip on that. Like I said, the apes kissing is really weird. Heston takes the death and lobotomy of his fellow astronauts pretty well.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to mind too much.
No, he's like pretty chill with it.
I mean, especially at the very beginning when the female that they were bringing along, her Stewart, yeah. What would you call it? I guess their isolation tanks that they were sleeping in for that whole time. I don't know what you'd call them, but hers had cracked and she died, and he was not phased whatsoever. He looked at her and he was like, "Well," I don't remember exactly what
Yeah,
he said, but it was basically like, "Well, let's move on, fellas."
and I swear there was one point in the film later on where he's like, "Oh, she was so cute." Like
Yeah,
they had like something going on between them, and he didn't care at all.
yeah. They definitely implied that at one point.
I think it is worth noting though that pretty much at the outset once they land, Charlton Heston's character, it basically Taylor, he basically goes, you know, like we're here to stay when we're here to die on this planet basically. So I think that I think he gives off the vibe that he kind of lived his life on Earth like that, and once he landed on this planet, he really was there to stay and just kind of took things as they were and didn't get too rattled by it. So I think that kind of is an explanation for it.
I also think he was the only one of the astronauts to know that it was the year 3978. I think he saw what year it was and no one else did.
I'm pretty sure he did mention it. He brought it. He told them. I'm almost certain that he said if we had been sleeping for a year, for us at least, that's what it felt like. But it's actually been 2,000 years or something like that. I'm pretty sure he did bring that up, but I could be misremembering.
Yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, like I said, the apes makeup looks really good, although it's kind of hard to differentiate between the different apes.
Yeah, I didn't. I
It's
kind
hard to
of
tell between
realized towards
chimps
the
and
end.
gorillas.
Yeah, I kind of realized which ones were chimps towards the end and which ones gorillas, solely based on what they're wearing.
Yeah, and what their position is.
Yeah, like the guards were all gorillas.
Yeah. And then I also thought it was really weird that Heston kisses Dr. Zero on the mouth goodbye.
I didn't cringe or anything at any point in the movie or like anything like that. I wasn't like, oh, that's so weird until that. That was just, I was very
He wants
rattled.
it too. It's not like it just happened
Yeah.
naturally. He's like,
I want to
"Can I
kiss you
kiss? Yeah, can
goodbye.
I kiss you goodbye?" She's like, "Uh huh."
I guess it was just an opportunity for a funny joke for her to be like, "But you're so ugly."
And she seems like pretty into it. She gives a little smirk. She looks over at her man Cornelius, who's kind of, you can tell he's a little jealous because Taylor's a stud and all, and she kind of gives a little smirk. She's probably blushing through that chimp makeup, and yeah, I agree, Adam. That was definitely the one point where I was like, this is a little strange, but I was digging it. I was into it.
And I liked how the main orangutan, the judge guy, he wasn't really wrong about his fear for humanity and
Yeah. I definitely didn't like him because, I mean, at least leading up until that point, it kind of just like he seems like the obvious villain, and he's
yeah.
just going based solely on faith, what should be, and not what could be based on science and reasoning. Yeah, when he says you might not like what you find, when he tells them to go down the beach, it's true. I mean, they did this to themselves essentially. Is my guess.
Yeah.
That is what they make it seem like.
So right before that, we learned that there was an ancient civilization of humans that were more advanced than they are today.
Hmm.
And then he goes down the beach, and it's revealed that he's not on some far planet.
He's on Earth.
He's on Earth. He's on the far future Earth. And we find this out when he sees the Statue of Liberty
Hmm.
all broken up.
Yeah, and he falls to his knees and is essentially just destroyed.
I mean, now it's one of the most iconic movie moments of all time, I think.
Is it?
I mean, you see it parodied all the time. Was this your first time watching this movie?
Yeah,
You've seen that before though, right?
I guess so. I mean, I've seen people falling to their knees on beaches a million times. Is that what
In
you
front
mean?
of the Statue of Liberty?
I don't, maybe.
I've seen it a bunch of times.
Yeah, to be honest, I actually hadn't seen this movie prior, and I had never seen that scene before, so I'm not sure
Oh.
necessarily how iconic it is. That being said, though, it really did catch me by surprise. I didn't necessarily see that coming at all. Looking back on it and reflecting a little bit, I did think it was a little bit corny. Just the way it came about, kind of just came out of nowhere. Like it's Taylor and his girlfriend are whatever galloping down the beach on the horse, and 30 seconds later, that's the end of the movie. And so I thought that was a little strange, and then he just drops to his knees and goes, "No." So I thought that was a little corny, but like then again, it's also a product of his time. Um,
It
but
was abrupt.
it was abrupt, exactly. It was abrupt, but at that being said, it was unexpectedly abrupt. So it was a good abrupt, I guess. It just kind of it would move very quickly.
I thought looking back though, it set it up well. I obviously knew the twist was coming. I knew it was Earth the whole time.
Yeah, I did too.
Um, and I thought the whole time it set it up that, oh, this could be Earth.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked the ending though, to be honest, because like I said, I had seen it before and I knew that it was coming, but I, I don't know. I just think it just makes such more interesting the whole movie more interesting looking back on it. If it was some other planet, it would be like fine, it's some theoretical planet somewhere out in space where it's all apes or ape-like creatures at least. But the fact that it's on Earth adds a whole new dynamic to the entire movie. So I don't know. I really like that actually.
I was thinking that would the Statue of Liberty make it that many years? Would it last?
I guess it really just depends on what conditions it had to face, but probably not.
All right, so let's get away from our notes on the film. Let's talk about some facts on the film. During breaks, actors would tend to hang out together. So gorillas would hang out with gorillas, orangutans with orangutans, chimps with chimps, and it wasn't required. It just happened naturally.
That's interesting.
It is interesting. It kind of says something about
Humanity,
society. Yeah,
like
it's
they just
weird.
you're kind of congregating with people that are like you.
Yeah.
That's very interesting actually.
That is really interesting, and I think that also I did think at some points some of the acting wasn't necessarily incredible acting, at least by modern day standards, but I did think that the chemistry between Linda Harrison and Charles, is that her name, Linda Harrison?
Yeah.
Linda Harrison and Charlton Heston was quite natural, and it seemed very genuine, and I think maybe that can go to explain it. They were just hanging out all the time, and not to mention Linda Harrison's quite the looker. But yeah, I think that definitely goes to explain why their chemistry seemed pretty genuine.
Well, let's get into Linda Harrison. She was pregnant at the time, and she was
Really?
having an affair with producer Richard Zanuck at the time of the production. And the next year, he would divorce his wife, and the two would get married.
Huh. Well, and wait, sorry. Did you say the baby was his too?
Yeah. So the producer of the film
Okay.
impregnated Linda
Yeah.
Harrison, and they were having an affair.
Interesting.
Heston was sick with the flu for most of the film, and producers liked his voice hoarse, so they didn't delay the shoot. They kept it going.
Mm,
And remember that one scene where he's getting hosed in the prison?
yeah.
He said that was like hell for him because he was
Yeah.
so sick, and they
Right.
kept doing it over and over again.
Yeah, that would be so brutal having the flu and having to deal with that. Oh my God.
At least
What
he
a
wasn't in the
trooper.
makeup.
What?
At least he wasn't in the makeup, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Meals were liquefied and drank through straws because the masks were required to be worn at all times.
Wait, what do you mean at all times? Really? They couldn't take him off during the shoot at all?
No, it took so long to put on. It was just they had to keep them
Oh my
on for the full
God.
day at least.
That's so brutal.
Allegedly, Jerry Goldsmith, who was the composer, wore a gorilla mask while he was composing and writing for the film.
What a legend.
And the line, "Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty apes," is the number 66 movie quote of all time by the American Film Institute.
Yeah, I've that one I definitely know of. That's very iconic. I can definitely
I
attest to
thought both
that.
were iconic. I know this one's definitely
Yeah, I
iconic.
mean, I've heard that everywhere. I've heard it parodied, I've heard it referenced, everything.
This was one of the first films to have a large-scale merchandising tie-in.
Just to go back on the take your dirty paws off me. I know I'm gonna butcher the lines. I'm not gonna try it, but I did think that, like, why do you guys think that? I mean, obviously that's a critical point in the movie where he's in the net and getting caught after that little chase scene. But why, like, magically did his voice started working then? Do you know what I mean? Like, why, it just seemed a little too coincidental.
It was coincidental, but I guess, enough time for it to heal. It was weird that he survived a bullet wound to the neck.
Bullet to the neck, yeah. When that exact thing killed his friend before that, well, they were running through the corn stalks or whatever it was.
I don't know why it happened right then.
I do wonder though why that line in particular became so famous.
I don't know. Maybe just the reaction everyone had, like all the apes had when he spoke. I don't know. Yul Brynner, Alec Guinness, Laurence Olivier, and Orson Welles were all considered to play Dr. Zaius, who I think that was the orangutan. John Chambers received an honorary Oscar at the 41st Academy Awards for his makeup effects, and this was the first ever received by a makeup artist.
Good for him.
So then in 1970, after it was a huge financial success, this movie, so in 1970 there was a sequel. Paul Dane would come on to write, and he would become the primary writer for the franchise. Ted Post came on as director, and Charlton Heston was uninterested in returning for the film, but he agreed to shoot a few scenes if his character was killed off and his salary would be donated to charity.
What a good guy. Did that happen?
It happened, but he's also the president of the NRA, so
Oh.
I don't know how cool he is. It was poorly reviewed, but still a major box office success. So they went into production on the next one, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, in 1971, directed by Don Taylor. And this was the final film of Sal Mineo before he was murdered on February 12th, 1976. I don't know who he was or how he was murdered, but I thought it was interesting. And then in 1972, we get Conquest for the Planet of the Apes, directed by J. Lee Thompson. In the film, there was a new plague that wiped out all of the Earth's cats and dogs. 6 years after the release, in 1978, there was a worldwide pandemic of canine papillomavirus, which killed several thousands of dogs. So that's interesting. They kind of just predicted something that was actually going to happen.
Yeah.
It was the only film of the original series to not receive a G rating.
What was it rated?
Probably PG. I don't know.
And why was that?
I'm not sure. Maybe there was a little more side cock. There was the full cock.
Some full cock?
And there was an opening scene of an ape being shot and shown with bullet wounds by the police, which was cut for being too gruesome.
Hmm.
It's interesting because that scene would basically be used in Rise of the Planet of the Apes in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
There was that scene of Caesar's mom getting shot. You
Yeah.
see her with all the bullet wounds. And the final of the series is Battle of the Planet of the Apes in 1973. J. Lee Thompson returns to direct. And an interesting fact is this is supposedly the film that inspired Tony Mendez to create the Operation Argo during the Iran hostages from 1979 to 1981, in which he traveled to Iran in disguise to free a bunch of hostages.
That is very cool. I did not know that. That's a very cool fact.
And it's kind of silly that I mean, I think this is regarded as the worst of the series.
Is there anything do you have anything or any notes on this? Did you say how this movie inspired him?
No, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't watch. I didn't watch this movie, so I haven't seen it. So I don't know how, but I assume there was some kind of operation that was similar to Argo, where people went undercover
I
as
mean, at the end of the day,
production.
you can find inspiration in anything in your life.
Yeah,
Anything that I mean, if you need inspiration, you can find it. Doesn't matter what it's from. You know, a Ziploc bag, pair of socks, could be anything.
yeah. And this was the only film to feature a hybrid ape-human child, symbolizing the two species coexisting in peace. It was removed due to the implications of bestiality, obviously.
That's crazy.
Okay, so that takes us to the end of Planet of the Apes at that point. And then there was about a 20-year gap where there was nothing. In 1993 of December, Oliver Stone signs on as an executive producer slash co-writer for a newly proposed Planet of the Apes film. And it was going to be called Return of the Apes. At this point, Oliver Stone's credits include Platoon in 1986, Wall Street in 1987, Born on the 4th of July in 1989, and Natural Born Killers in 1994. He's since uh, become a three-time Academy Award-winning director and screenwriter, so a pretty big name for
Hmm.
this franchise. And it also he doesn't seem to fit this franchise with the films he does.
Yeah, I guess not.
With Stone, Jane Hampshire and Don Murphy were also on as producers, and Stone wanted the story to revolve around apes from an ancient civilization with biblical connections. In 1993, he was quoted, "It has the discovery of cryogenically frozen Zepic apes who hold the secret numeric codes to the Bible that foretold the end of civilizations. It deals with past versus the future. My concept is that there's a code inscribed in the Bible that predicts all historical events. The apes were there at the beginning and figured it all out."
So it's like a full circle. They were there before and apparently after.
It's kind of like they may have wrote the Bible.
They were the creators.
Who knows?
I don't just mean of the Bible.
Well, let's evolution. Let's talk about it. Do you think it's something to do with evolution, connecting evolution with religion? Finally, once and for all, connecting evolution with religion?
How do you mean? How?
Well, if apes created the Bible and we come from apes, if evolution says we come from apes and the Bible says we come from Adam and Eve, but this is telling us that the apes created the Bible, what it's all the same. We're from apes regardless.
Sorry, what do you make? You're asking Adam, what do you make of this? I'm trying to say, I feel like you have a theory in your brain that
Well,
you
this
figure.
just popped in my head. This is maybe what he was going
I
for.
think that I mean, watching the movie, I think it was very clear that evolution was and religion. I mean, they're inextricably linked, but I think that that was one of the major themes of the movie for sure. But I am curious for you to elaborate a little bit more on this theory of yours.
And now I feel stupid because I don't know much about religion.
No, I'm not criticizing. I'm actually curious about what you're going for.
I don't know. Now I'm just thinking about what he was saying in that quote. Um, the Bible that predicts all historical events. The apes were there at the beginning and figured it all out. All right, so it's not saying they wrote it. It's saying they were just there when it was.
They were already, yeah.
All right, let's move on. So Terry
I thought
Hayes.
you were joking.
I was more joking, but then I started thinking about it. I thought it might be real. Okay, Terry Hayes was the writer of Dead Calm, Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and he was recruited by Stone to write the screenplay. And in 1994, Stone secured megastar Arnold Schwarzenegger to play the lead in the film, with the condition that he had approval of director. Schwarzenegger liked Stone's conspiracy theory concept, but anticipated a much more violent and gory interpretation. So fitting in with Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Hayes' screenplay, just a brief summary, it begins at the near future where a plague is causing humans to go extinct. Geneticist Will Robertson discovers the plague is a genetic time bomb embodied since the Stone Age. He time travels with a pregnant colleague named Billy Ray Diamond to a time where Paleolithic humans were at the war for the future of the planet with highly evolved apes. The two discover a young girl named Eve who is somehow the next step in human evolution, and they're tasked with protecting her from the virus, thus ensuring the survival of the human race. Eventually, Billy Ray gives birth to a baby boy, thought to be named Adam and Eve. So some more Bible references.
These movies just all over the place in terms of their time, what time they're in.
This would have had the most biblical references. The other ones weren't too referenced in. I guess they were. They
Well,
had
the
the
first,
the
the
scrolls
original
and the
was.
scripts. Yeah. All right, so let's get into the whole script, the whole meat of it. So we learn in the script that our main character, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, was formerly known as science expert Dr. Robert Plant. So if that sounds familiar, that's the lead singer of Led Zeppelin. He is making extraordinary discoveries in the field of mitochondrial DNA. While trying to prove his theories, Plant made a fatal mistake giving a cocktail he created to three other scientists, including his fiancée Allie. The three went into a sensory deprivation tank, and all three died, ending his career. So he abandons his work, takes up a position in a lab assistant at Harvard, and changed his name to Will Robinson. So if you don't know what that is, that's a reference to Lost in Space, because he himself is lost in space.
Hmm. Isn't that what Franco's name is in that one also? Will Robertson?
Is it? I don't think so.
No?
His name is Will
Or
Robinson.
Robinson? I thought his
Could
name
be.
was. I thought that's what his name was. Anyways, sorry. Yeah.
So after we learn all this, the film opens as a South American woman gives birth to a dead child. The body is being examined at Harvard, where she sees the skin, face, and features are all that of an 80-year-old man. So this baby is kind of born Benjamin Button.
Sorry, just to clarify, it was Will Rodman. That's who James Franco plays in the new one, so it was close.
Okay. That's why I got confused.
Maybe
Or
the name Will's been
misremembered, I
used
guess.
in a lot of the Planet of the Apes movies.
Hmm.
So this is becoming a worldwide epidemic of babies dying of old age, and a cure must be found. Otherwise, within 30 years, there'll be no live births anymore. One of the scientists examining the body is Professor of Biology Billy Ray Diamond, an attractive woman in her 30s, and Will Robinson is more fixated on this case than anybody else. So that's scene one, basically. Using his old data, Will comes up with a hypothesis that a mutation that has laid dormant within mankind's DNA for thousands of years has suddenly become active. Billy Ray reveals to Will that she is pregnant and begins to do some additional research on him. She discovers to find his failed trials of his past three colleagues that all died, and it's not clear at this point whether she knows he is Robert Plant or not, but she knows that he was involved in that. So Will then uses his friendship with the university caretaker to gain access to the psychology department, and there he sets up a makeshift lab where he plans on finishing his research. By following a trail of mutation, Will has the ability to identify the first flaws in our DNA and track it 100 and 2,000 years ago. He slides a syringe into his forearm, climbs into a flotation tank, and wakes up in a cave. He is in a prehistoric Kenya. So that worked. That's how he time travels. Just gets in a tank and shoots himself up with something.
It's basically what they did in the first one.
No,
Minus
they
the
were on a
shooting
ship.
up.
They were in space. What do you mean it's not the same at all?
Yeah, but they just got into a tube and then went to sleep and then they woke up 2,000 years later.
This is kind of like he's on planet Earth and he just goes in a tank and somehow winds up 2,000 years in the future.
What do you mean
Or
when
in
you
the
say
past.
goes in a tank?
It's like imagine a big, remember what the Winter Soldier was in?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay. But I mean, wouldn't that just be cryogenics? Like,
Basically, it's like that kind of tube.
yeah.
But it's taking you back in the past, not in the future.
So would you guys, if you could, shoot yourself up in time travel? Would you? Serious question, personal question.
No, I'm pretty satisfied with where I'm at right now.
It depends what I got to shoot myself up with.
But hang on though. You said they're going. This person they wake up back in time.
In a prehistoric Kenya.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 2,000 years in the future they woke
No.
up, or 1900.
No. This is the
Okay.
first Planet of the Apes movie that would have happened in the past.
Okay, got it. And sorry, Burr. Yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with where I'm at right now. I mean, what's the scenario?
Just saying, if you had the option, it was a technology that existed. If the option, it was on the marketplace. You had the option to do it whenever. Let's say even in 50 years from now, let's say, actually, never mind. This is getting a little dark here. But I'm saying, if you have the option at some point in your lifetime, yes or no. It's just, I'm not trying to get too deep or philosophical. I would be open to the idea. I would be open to it.
But you'd be leaving everything behind.
Well, that's why I think at a certain point in my life, that's when I would start to consider it. At an older age, maybe some of my friends or family are no longer around for various reasons. Maybe I'd consider, time traveling. So just, check out something new if I didn't have a lot going on. But, scenarios, various things could arise. I'm just saying I'd be open to it.
Fair enough. Maybe I'm old and I want to try and time travel a few thousand years in the future where they can reverse age me, you know?
How does time traveling work? If you go back, are you what? You're not, your other life's not going on? I thought it's like if you time travel, you're basically starting multiple
Yeah,
timelines.
that's the thing with that's I think that's more realistic. I think that is the more common theory is that there would be different timelines. So I don't really know. There's a whole bunch of stuff with time travel that doesn't seem to make sense in terms of
There's not enough good
sci-fi
time travel
theories.
movies. That's the issue.
The Flash, honestly, where I get all my time travel info is the Flash TV show.
Well, to be okay, Back to the Future. That's a classic. First of all. Second of all, more recent, a little Netflix show called Travelers is actually a pretty good flick, I must say. I mean, I watched it with a buddy of mine, Elijah, aka Kuya, and it was entertaining to watch with him because he has some interesting commentary to say the least. But no, essentially the premise of this show is that when someone dies, there's 30 seconds in which somebody from the future can take over their body. And so these quote unquote travelers would come in from the future and take over people's bodies that how we're about to pass away and, alter reality basically. So I think there's a lot of different ways about going about time traveling. And I'd be open to it if it was a reality. Maybe it is. Maybe NASA's covering it up. Who knows?
People always ask that question: if you could time travel, would you go back and kill baby Hitler? But I'm like, if I could time travel, why wouldn't I just go kill like a teenage Hitler so I don't feel as bad about it? you know?
Yeah, let him live until he turns evil, at least.
Well, it's not like he didn't start anything when he was 13 years old. I'd rather kill a 13-year-old than like a 13-month-old.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go back to like just before he gained any political power and kill
That
him
still
then.
might be too much of a risk.
I'll let him live until he actually would have any effect on anyone's life.
You could kill him when he's 13. He's a man at that point in the Jewish community.
The thing is, though, honestly, if you killed Hitler, then like history would be
Yeah.
drastically changed. Probably be no Cold War, that no nuclear bombing. So who knows where we'd be at? Maybe we wouldn't even be here. There'd be a more crazy war that would have happened. Who knows? But yeah, you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to kill a baby Hitler. Maybe you do. I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to kill a teenager either.
Well, I'm just saying I'd rather kill a teenager than a baby.
Yeah, probably, but I'd rather kill an adult over either one of those two.
Yeah, but at that point he has too much power. Okay. So soon after he lands in a prehistoric Kenya, he's captured by a tribe called the Tribe of the Tiger, and their leader is Kip Kenya, and he orders Will's death. This is a tribe of humans. Just then comes heavily armed apes on a horseback led by a huge gorilla named Drax. Trying to escape, Will jumps on the back of a horse, and so does Kip. And Drax and his ape army follow him through the vines at incredible speed and knock him off the horse, and Kip still gets away. So they only have Will.
And Will is Arnold,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Okay.
So Will is put onto a wagon because he's injured, and he's brought back to the ape city where he sees massive landscapes of apes living their lives, giant statues to other apes. Here we meet Nazgul, the president of the Council of Elders, and Magog, the high priest of the apes and the keeper of the Book of the Lore. The apes are fascinated with Will since he is so different from the tribesmates they're used to, and the female ape doctor Zara, who's a reference to Zira, and assistant Ben Guri look after his injuries and perform a blood transfusion with fellow prisoner Aragorn. He explains that the ornament around his neck is called the Crescent of Light and is used to show his rank. That's Aragorn. So Aragorn, if that's also a reference to Lord of the Rings. There's a bunch of Tolkien references in here. We'll get to them in a little bit. The two work together to pick the cell door lock, and they escape. In the Temple of the Ape, Nazgul, Drax, and the other apes of the Council of Elders are gathered discussing the Book of Lore, and Magog is fearful of Will as he seemingly resembles the last scroll, which depicts the force of a rising entity coming from a white horse to destroy all the apes. The council agrees that Will must be killed, so Trax and two guards go back to kill him, and they see that he's escaped. His cell is empty. In the modern era, so we cut back, we see a priest conducting mass over a large row of tiny white coffins. So just a whole bunch of babies. Not Hitler. With only 4 weeks till she gives birth, Billy Ray sees no other option but to join Will, and we see her climb into the flotation tank. And she goes back in time. And eventually she catches up with Will, and who's he with? He's with Aragorn. And they make their way to Aragorn's people. Aragorn finds a secret message left for him by Kip Keena, which is calling for the 7 tribes of humans to meet. And Will explains that Billy Ray and the apes already know about the virus and plan on introducing it to the human tribes in hopes of them becoming extinct. So the virus that they're worrying about in the future is being introduced now, and all the apes are trying to kill off humans now instead of in the future. At the gathering, all the tribesmen seem to see Will as the savior, and they're all willing to fight alongside of him. So sorry, I forgot to add. Before Aragorn and Will are met by Billy Ray before she comes back in time, once they escape, Aragorn and Will are running away, and they meet up with Aragorn's old tribe. They find 6 apes, including Aragorn's daughter, and then they go up to them and they turn them around, and they see those horseshoes on their head. So they've all been lobotomized. So without question, Aragorn pulls out a crossbow and kills them all, including his daughter. Okay? And at that point, they're joined by Strider, who is one of the apes that wasn't lobotomized of their friends. So now it's Will, Aragorn, Strider, and they're met by Billy Ray. Okay?
And wait, is Aragorn an ape?
Aragorn is one of the tribesmen. He's a prehistoric human.
Okay.
Okay? Strider is an ape who they freed because he was imprisoned for killing another ape when he was drunk and snapped its neck.
All right.
Okay. It's easier to follow if it was a film, okay? I'm sorry. So now they're at a meeting, and all the tribesmates are together, and they're trying to figure out how to stop these apes from infecting them all. They see Will as their new leader, and Aragorn is still heartbroken from killing his daughter, so he removes the crescent of light, the thing around his neck, and he gives it to Kip. And so now Kip's the leader. And at this point, an epic battle throughout the jungle ensues. Will uses his scientific knowledge to build gunpowder, and this devastates the apes. The tribe of the antelope arrives to support the human forces. In there, we meet a young girl named Eve, who right away is clearly the evolutionary step towards humanity, right? So we have to protect her. Even with the firepower, the ape army is vastly superior and kills or captures most tribespeople. Eve is captured, Aragorn is missing, Kip is killed, and his followers abandon their village. Okay. Will, Billy Ray, and Strider are all alive and must free Eve.
So Strider's on the team of the humans.
Yes. He was kind of like Zira in the first one and Cornelius.
Mm-hmm.
They're apes, but
Okay.
okay. So Strider takes Will to part of the river where they could cross on a rope. So it's kind of like a big cliff, and they have to cross in the middle. There's a lot of smoke, and then they get through a little bit, and the smoke clears up, and there's a bunch of chimps on the other side with arrows pointing at them. One of them shoots Will. He falls. He shot him in the shoulder, and then Strider falls to his death. So Strider gone, Kip gone. At this point, Aragorn stumbles across a group of remaining human tribes and rallies the survivors to fight. And in Zora's lab, we see 5 infected apes, 8 babies having their blood extracted from them. And she turns to Eve when suddenly Will appears at the door, stops her, and Billy Ray takes Eve and runs away. So now they have Eve, it's Will, and it's Billy Ray. They're together. They're running from the apes. Everyone's with me?
I think so.
So Nazgul is looking over the city, and he notices a steam-driven machine approaching him. So this is something I didn't get into. These apes have steam-powered vehicles. It's very steampunky, you know?
What's wrong with that?
It's nothing wrong. It's just there's not a lot of good movies that have a lot of steampunk in them.
I don't know. I don't understand.
Is that am I saying the word right? Steampunk? Have you ever seen Wild Wild West with Will Smith?
You said steam powered before.
Yeah, but like, do you know what steampunk is?
No, I don't think so.
Is that the right word, Burr?
Yeah, I've never heard this word, but apparently, yeah, it's a type of science fiction that basically incorporates technology that inspires that's used like steam powered machinery. That's what
Yeah,
you're talking about.
it's like Victorian era meets the Industrial Revolution.
So it's just steam powered things, though, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically, but so it's a steam powered vehicle that's approaching Nazgul that's shooting fire. It's not like a car. It's like a massive thing shooting fire. Before he can realize that this steampunk car driving towards him is Will, he's knocked off, flamethrowed, and he dies, Nazgul. The ape city is burning. Magog stands over his soldiers, directing them until Aragorn arrives. With his daughter still on his mind, he drives a spear into the high priest's heart, killing him. Blinded by vengeance with the spear in his heart, he can't. All he cares about is killing this guy. He turns around to see Drax on horseback, and Drax comes in and kills Aragorn. So we're getting a lot of quick deaths right now. All
Yeah,
right.
everyone's dying.
Yeah, most of the high-powered people of the apes have been killed. Aragorn is killed. The only people remaining are really Will, Billy Ray, and Eve, of the people we're following. Drax continues his pursuit towards Billy Ray and Eve, and after a long chase, Will catches up with them, and he sees an opportunity to stop Drax. So he takes control of another ape-made vehicle, a different steampunked vehicle, and this time it's kind of like shaped like an ape itself, and it has jaws like an ape. So he takes the jaws, clamps Drax, cuts his body in half, and drops his in half body in front of all his army mates, and he's dead. So now all the apes are dead. They all run away. Sometime later, we're on a beach, and Will is on top of a rocky cliff building something. Eve helps Diamond give birth to her healthy son, thus succeeding in their plan. However, we see that Will was building something. Do you have any guess what he was building?
Trying to build a time machine or something.
He is building.
Something steampunk inspired.
The Statue of Liberty.
Yep, he's building the head and the crown of the Statue of Liberty. And he says, "It is to make sure we never forget where we come from." That's my Arnold. But in case you didn't get that, he says, "It is to make sure we never forget where we come from." Basically showing that they succeeded, but they're both stuck here. And that's it. That's the end. It wouldn't have been the worst Planet of the Apes movie we had.
I mean, there's a few classic Arnold moments, like when he's coming in on this vehicle with the flame shooting out and kills the monkey, which, I mean, you gotta love classic Arnold moments.
That's exactly what I thought. I thought this would have been a great Arnold movie, but a pretty bad Planet of the Apes movie.
And sorry, just to clarify, you said it was pre-Terminator?
No. This was after Terminator.
Pre-Terminator 3,
Okay.
I think you said.
Pre-Terminator 3, yeah. So pre the downfall of Schwarzenegger, I think.
What did he even do after that? He did like, what's it called? No, he did a movie with all those, the big, like Terry Crews,
Expendables.
the Expendables, that was it.
He started to do, he did all the big ones, and then 1996 came around, he started to do the comedies more, Junior,
Mm.
with Danny DeVito.
Is that the one where he's a baby at one point? Like he's his head on a baby?
No, Junior's the one where he's pregnant.
Or he's pregnant, yeah. And then he gives birth to Danny DeVito or something weird like that.
No, he doesn't give birth to. There might be a weird sequence where that happens that you might be thinking of.
I just remember there being a weird moment where he's like in a hospital bed and there's like a baby with a man's face. Maybe, I'm pretty sure it's from that movie.
It's probably a dream sequence. It doesn't actually happen.
Are you talking about Benjamin Button?
It's definitely not Benjamin Button, no.
We did have a Benjamin Button in this script, though, basically, how the babies were all born 80 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
Except they died right away. I don't think Benjamin Button did.
No.
Should Benjamin Button have died right away?
No, because he's aging in reverse.
But still, if you're... Oh, okay. I don't know. Okay, so let's talk about the cast, crew, and production. So we went through it. The script had little resemblance to anything associated with the Planet of the Apes thus far. It was in the past, not the future.
Hmm.
I mean, besides the apes, it was very different.
Well, sorry. I mean, I guess at this point, actually, for when this would have been released, they've all been in the future, I guess. But the James Franco one, I guess, would technically be in the past too, right?
I think it was in the present.
I mean, it would be present for us, yeah, but it would be past in terms of most of the
Yeah.
Planet of the Apes.
Well, I was going to get into it
world.
and talk about it, but I think Rise of the Planet of the Apes, if you just... I've seen Dawn, I haven't seen War, so I don't know exactly what the end franchise tells you.
Hmm.
But if you just look at Rise, it's kind of a prequel, right?
Yeah,
You could say it's
exactly.
a prequel to the original.
Yeah, that would it kind of explains how the apes actually came to power.
How they got so smart and all that. All right, so in January 1995, Philip Noyce,
Noise.
the director of Patriot Games, Clear and Present Daylight, was selected to direct. So Oliver Stone wasn't going to direct; he was just on as producer and writer. With pre-production planned with $100 million budget, Stan Winston was set to design the prosthetic makeup after Rick Baker declined. And a later unconfirmed rumor was that Ben Kingsley was in talks for the lead role of Will Robinson, and Schwarzenegger would play the leader of the Stone Age Men. This was kind of denied; it wasn't really confirmed, but I think it would have been actually a little bit better if Schwarzenegger was one of the ape people instead of the lead.
I mean, that would have been pretty cool too, seeing him fuck people up as a big giant ape, like the lead
Or
ape
prehistoric human, whatever it
or
was. Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Would you say what were they called? Paleolithic.
Okay, so Don Murphy, the producer, was a lifelong fan of the Apes franchise, and he convinced Stone to meet with the executives. There, Stone was quoted as saying, "Oh, I don't know. I watched the original films a couple of nights ago, and they're awful. I'm only here because of Don Murphy. You should talk to him." So, like I said, I said it didn't seem like it fit with Oliver Stone. He didn't even care that much about it,
Hmm.
clearly. Fox's initial plans were to relaunch the franchise in the 80s with young filmmaker Adam Rifkin to develop the project. His idea would be an alternate sequel to the original Planet of the Apes, ignoring the others. It would feature a descendant of our past lead launching a Spartacus like uprising against a Roman inspired ape ruler. Everyone said this was like Gladiator, but Planet of the Apes. When everyone eventually began leaving after the firing of Hayes, Chris Columbus was brought on to take a shot at developing the project, and he hired Sam Hamm to write. And in this script, there was an ape astronaut crash landing in New York, causing a virus that will make humans extinct. A group of scientists and doctors take the ship and return to the planet of origin to try to find an antidote. And there they find an ape society that is heavily armed and hunting human tribes. More of the same. And they discover an antidote and return home with only to find out that in their 74-year absence, apes have taken over their world. At this point, Schwarzenegger was still attached, and then in 1995, Chris Columbus left, and James Cameron stepped on as producer. However, this was a short-lived role because he left immediately after Titanic was a financial and critical success in the same year. And other directorial duties were offered to Peter Jackson, Michael Bay, and Peter Hyams before ultimately being canceled for good. And then this would be the end of The Return of the Apes, because in 1999 they'd start working on Tim Burton's
Hmm.
reboot.
Just too many struggles in terms of the director and stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I just kept getting passed along. And why would it keep getting passed along? Why was filming ultimately canceled? I did say it, but I said it very quick. You might have missed it. Fox chairman Peter Chernin called Hayes' project one of the best scripts I've ever read. So Hayes was the screenwriter. However, Fox executives were frustrated with Hayes' interpretation. Head of production Dylan Sellers felt the script could be improved by including more comedy. Sellers was supposedly adamant on the script including a scene where the apes are trying to play baseball but are missing a specific element like a pitcher. And Will shows them what they're missing and they all play together. When the
Oh
final script
God.
was turned in without this scene, Hayes was fired.
That doesn't even sound like it's comedic because it's funny to laugh at that he
Yeah.
thought that would be necessary to include. But I don't even think even if it was included, I don't think that would be comedic in itself.
Well, this was 1996. This was the 90s where everything had to be funny.
He was
Even
fired
horror.
though for not having that in the script.
He was fired for not including that in the script, yeah. So once he was fired, Don Murphy said, Terry wrote a Terminator and Fox wanted the Flintstones. I don't think it was the Terminator from the script, but it did seem like they wanted something more like the Flintstones. So upset with the decision, Philip Noyce left the project in
Noyce.
February 1995 to work on The Saint. Oliver Stone moved on in other film projects. Don Murphy and Jane Hampshire were brought off the project. And that's about it. They all left because Hayes was fired. They all liked Hayes' vision. And when he was gone, they're all like, we're gone.
Fucking Fox.
And then at this point, Tom Sellers would suffer a car accident and he would no longer be the head of production, anyways. So Tom Rothman came in as the head of production for Fox. And it's not clear, but usually when there's a new head of production, they scrap all the old head of production stuff because they want to make their own films. They want to make their own vision. They don't want to be looked at and riding the coattails, you know? And that's about it. I mean, that's how I was canceled. Some references I have in the script. There were many Tolkien references, like I said. Magog, Aragorn, Nazgul, Stridle, and Middle Earth are all referenced. References to the original Ape franchise. Dr. Zora is a more sinister version of Dr. Zira. And the Statue of Liberty at the end, plus the line, "Take your stinking paws off me."
Oh, they say it in this too.
Yeah, there's a variation of it. Arnold says it. "Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape."
Pretty good.
No, I'm not good at Arnold. The lead character's name, Robert Plant, like the lead singer of Led Zeppelin. Like I said, Will Robinson, Lost in Space. Biblical references. Magog is quoting from the Book of Revelation. And Strider recognizes Will's Christian prayers as being ape in origin. So there you go, ape in origin, the Christian prayers.
Trying to go back to your conspiracy theory, eh?
I'm not trying to go back. There's something to it. And the characters Adam and Eve are in the script, so those are some other biblical
So,
stuff.
but you're saying that that's in the script. Are you saying that you believe it?
Oh, are you asking what I believe?
But it's like I'm saying like are you saying that it's someone, even not even you? Does someone believe that this is true, or is it just in the movie? Is that what you're? I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Honestly, I agree. I'm not sure what you're insinuating exactly. If it exists in the movie, as in like someone that working for the movie was trying to make that implication, or you personally believe that. I don't know. Yeah, please.
All I want to say is evolution is a hoax. It's not real. How can we be apes? Where is the ape in me?
The Earth is flat too,
Yeah.
and the moon landing didn't happen, as we already discussed.
I am saying I do not believe that. I do not believe that. I think I was just more going for the script, not my own belief.
You like the idea of it though, because personally, I like to entertain the possibility of certain conspiracy theories. I don't ever buy into them fully, but it's interesting to potentially be open to it.
Yeah, I'm open to it.
I'm not really.
I'm not even sure what my conspiracy theory is.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what I'm
Just to
going
clarify for the record, I'm not open to it either, but I think in general, it's cool to be open to conspiracy theories. I'm always, me personally, I'm open to most. This is not one that I'm open to, but it seems like you are.
It's definitely cool to be open to conspiracy theories. I agree with that. I don't even know what theory you guys are pushing it on.
It just seems,
I seriously
mean,
don't know
you're
what
getting very
I'm
hyped up on this like apes started all religion and wrote the Bible thing. I'm just trying to clarify whether you're saying you think that this somehow like translates to real life, or you're saying just in this movie universe.
Just in this movie, though.
Okay.
Let's clarify, because I do not believe that. If I seemed enthusiastic about it, I haven't been. I've just been.
It's just the fact that you brought it up once, okay, but then the fact that you brought it up again like half an hour later, it means that you've been thinking about it.
I just got the notes in front of me, guys. I'm just reading what's on the paper, okay? It's not me.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
All right. The time travel elements of the story were inspired by the movie Altered States, according to producer Don Murphy. And there's some Star Wars references when Will calls a swarm of apes stormtroopers. And in the beginning of the film, Will talks about his 3 colleagues of his, and these are possibly the 3 astronauts from the original film. Possibly. And the line, like I said, "Keep your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape," is spoken by Will when he clamps Drax at the end. So we talked about most of the films already of the Apes franchise. Let's talk about it in the media. So the highly successful series began with Pierre Boile's 1963 novel La Plante des Cingles, which, what do you got for me?
Singe. I think that's how you say it. Not single.
La Plante des Singes,
Singe, I think.
which in America translates to Planet of the Apes or Monkey Planet.
I'll feel like such an asshole if I was wrong with that pronunciation. Fuck.
Who cares? We're not French. We love French people, though.
Not French Canadians though.
No. Fun. They're good too. The novel caught the attention of American film producer Arthur P. Jacobs, who bought the film rights. And then we saw the 1968 film and the four sequels after that. And in 1973, P. Jacobs died, and Stan Hugh took over as producer and started to work in TV. So then we see the show air on CBS on September 13th, 1974, before being canceled after one season. And then after its cancellation, NBC and Fox agreed to adapt the franchise to an animated series, and again, only lasting 1 year before canceled. And then we get the 20-year gap where we see Stone's project and some other projects fail. And then in 2001, we see Planet of the Apes, directed by Tim Burton, starring Mark Wahlberg, Helena Bonham Carter, and Tim Roth.
I didn't even know this one existed until we talked about it the other day.
This is always one of those movies that everyone goes back to as one of the worst remakes of all time.
Well, I'm glad I hadn't heard of it and hadn't watched it then.
For this show, for you lovely people out there, I watched it. I watched it a few days ago, and it's bad. It's not good. Something I did want to say for it is the effects look really good. The practical effects of the apes look incredible. You know, I love the 2001 Andy Serkis one for the CGI of the apes, but the practicalness of these apes are really good.
Well, like I haven't seen it. Sorry for all you people listening. But what was so bad about it, or why is it so critically unclaimed? I know that's not a word, but why does it get so much criticism? Is it the acting, the plot, or is it
Okay.
just a combination of everything? Like what went wrong?
I watched it, so I took some notes on it. So I'll go through all my notes, and then you'll see where you think it might have gone wrong. Okay. So first, I'll say directed by Tim Burton, starring Mark Wahlberg, Helena Bonham Carter, Tim Roth, Michael Clark Duncan, Paul Giamatti, and Chris Christopherson. So a pretty good cast. So notes on the film: it opens in a space shuttle with a chimp being sent through a black hole in the year 2029. So that's their decision, to send a chimp through a black hole. The chimp gets lost, surprisingly, because it's a chimp. And then Mark Wahlberg loves this chimp, so he gets on a spacecraft and goes after this one chimp to save a chimp.
Wait, is it already through the black hole?
Yeah, they're in a space shuttle in space, and there's a black hole in front of them, and they have little pods in the space shuttle. This space shuttle is huge. There's hundreds of people on it.
Wait, but so basically the premise of the movie is Mark Wahlberg is chasing this chimp that's gone through a black hole, just with no really direction, just flying into space looking for this chimp he loves.
Okay, so they're on this huge space shuttle, right? There's a bunch of people, and Mark Wahlberg, seemingly his job is to train a bunch of chimps that are on this space shuttle to fly space pods instead of astronauts.
Okay.
Makes no sense, right? So they send one out, it goes through a black hole, it gets lost. Mark Wahlberg loves this chimp. He goes through the black hole himself, and he gets lost. And he lands on a mysterious planet.
I mean, I already hate it because that's not how black holes work.
Well, who knows how black holes
Well,
work?
okay. We're pretty sure that's not how they work.
Okay, so then there you go. Terrible already. So then he lands on this mysterious planet. All this bullshit happens. Whatever. I can't even remember because it was so boring. But some of my notes. Paul Giamatti's orangutan buys humans to sell and forcefully work. So kind of like slaves.
Paul Giamatti's in it though.
Yeah, he plays the orangutan.
Yeah, like what a good cast. What's
There was a good cast.
How could this go so wrong?
Mark Wahlberg wasn't great yet as an actor.
Also, I don't love him in serious roles. I like him more as a comedic role.
I also took a note too at some point. Mark Wahlberg is like a less relatable Keanu Reeves.
You don't like him in The Departed?
Potted.
I don't think I've even seen that movie.
Buddy, that's one of my favorite. I'm not a big movie guy. That's one of my favorite movies of all
He's
time.
barely in it.
What do you mean? He's one of the main characters.
No.
He's a main character for sure.
Maybe like the fifth main.
Fourth.
All right.
At any rate, I think he can be good in some serious roles. But yes, I know what you mean. I do like a Mark Wahlberg and a more lighthearted.
Well, I think he's, like I said, a less relatable Keanu Reeves. Like, Keanu Reeves is a bad actor.
I think that's accurate.
And Mark Wahlberg's a bad actor, but he's just
I love Keanu
jacked
Reeves.
in all this. No, Keanu Reeves, I love Keanu Reeves, but he's not, like, the best actor. You know?
What?
I actually also there's another movie that I just thought of. I don't remember. I think it was this movie about the Boston Marathon bombing that Mark Wahlberg
Yeah,
plays.
he was great in
He
that.
was actually very good in that. He played a serious role, and that was I thought it was gonna be a pretty corny, like shitty movie. It was actually a very good movie, and Wahlberg did very well in that role.
He's good. I like Wahlberg. I just think he was bad at the beginning of his career when he was just getting off of Marky Mark and all the
The Funky
Calvin
Bunch.
Klein ads.
It's just cans.
Cons. It's just cons.
That's a great line. How could you call him a bad actor?
No, he's amazing. I love Keanu Reeves, one of my favorite actors. But
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I'm just kidding.
yeah, Helena Bonham Carter's ape looks like Michael Jackson. If you haven't seen it, you wouldn't know, but it's so weird. It's like it looks exactly like Michael Jackson, the ape. It's the whole time. And then I took a note: Are apes afraid of water? Because that's a big point that they can't swim. And then I looked it up, and yeah, they're not good swimmers. So there was actually a good point they did.
Huh.
All of a sudden, at the very end of the film, there's an all-out war, and a spaceship from the beginning lands, piloted by the chimp, which causes all the apes to stop fighting as it fulfilled some ancient prophecy. So that's kind of how the big finale ends. The chimp from the beginning comes and saves Mark Wahlberg.
All right, so it seems like the end is just as bad as the beginning.
Yeah. And then we also have that weird moment where Mark Wahlberg kisses Helena Bonham Carter's ape on the mouth.
Oh, is it supposed so like they're all just about referencing each other? They seem to do that a lot.
There's a lot of references. Okay, so this is where it gets really, really messed up.
Oh yeah, I really quickly, since you pointed out that it was on the mouth, I found that very weird about the original one too.
Yeah, that's what I
Why
said.
wasn't it on the forehead or something? Why did
Yeah.
he kiss her right on the lips? Like, what's that?
And it was pretty sensual. Like I'm telling you, she had this
Yeah.
little smirk, and he was very like passionate. Like it was a brief but passionate kiss on the lips.
It was
They
like a
both wanted it.
makeout, really. Like I expected a peck on the forehead, and we got a makeout.
I wouldn't say it was a makeout. It was in between a peck and makeout. It was getting there.
Anyways, sorry, I wanted to make that comment.
No, it's fine. I just want to get to the part of how this movie is so terrible. So Mark
Well, it
Wahlberg
already
takes,
sounds terrible, but yeah.
but
Anyways,
the ending is where people have the real complaint. So Mark Wahlberg takes the ship through the black hole and he returns to Earth to seemingly normal Washington D.C.
because that's
Okay.
how they work for sure too. You can just go back through them.
Yeah, and you could just land in Washington D.C. So he walks towards the Lincoln Memorial, and it's revealed that it's not the Lincoln Memorial, but it's a memorial to Ape Lincoln. So it's an ape Lincoln sitting there. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of ape cops come and arrest him. So he's living in a normal Washington, D.C., but there's apes everywhere. And that's it.
Who's the director?
Tim Burton, who's a good director, but he
Come
has his
on.
own flair that he shouldn't do this kind of stuff.
That just self-explanatory. That sounds horrible. One thing I will say is that you said that they were trying to add a comedic element in the earlier one, and you know that could have been comedic if they weren't trying to be serious with this one, which I believe that was the intention with the 2001 one. That could have been comedic. Abraham Lincoln, you could definitely you can go with that route, I think.
Yeah, well, you could go that route if you do like a bunch of vignettes, where it's like you see like Abraham Lincoln and then like the Statue of Liberty, but it's an ape, and just funny shots like that where it's little ones, quick, fast. But this was trying to make it like a devastating thing, like oh my god.
Yeah, if it was trying to do it in a serious light, then that just makes it so bad.
Mark Wahlberg also wore this terrible shirt the whole time. He had this really bad shirt on. It was like, why didn't you just wear a normal white T-shirt? Why is your shirt all wrinkly and shit? Okay, so that's the film. Some notes I had on it. Mark Wahlberg dropped out of Ocean's 11 to do this movie. He would have played Matt Damon's role.
Big L.
Well, I mean, he thought he was doing a franchise, and then he dropped out of another franchise because that turned into something way more successful. Charlton Heston and Linda Harrison both returned to the film in cameo roles. Tim Roth declined the role of Severus Snape to star in this film. So again, he turned down a
Pretty
huge
big,
franchise
yeah.
too. And I love Tim Roth. I wish he was bigger, and that would have made him huge.
To be fair, I do like Severus Snape's character.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
actor,
yeah,
I mean.
yeah.
I can't think of his name.
Alan Rickman.
Alan, yeah, there you go.
Alan Rickman. Yeah, he was unbelievable as Severus Snape. Harrison Ford, Kevin Costner, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Patrick Stewart were all considered for the lead. And the only ape with a gun in the film is Roth's father, who is played by Charlton Heston, who, like I said, was the real-life president of the NRA.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's like the biggest. He's dead now, but he was the biggest gun advocate of anyone in Hollywood.
Listen, I'm not gonna say the guns are bad.
Let's not. No. We're not gonna get it. We're not getting into that. There was an alternate ending that had Wahlberg's character ship landing at Yankee Stadium and seeing a group of apes playing baseball, similar to that of the Hayes script. I would have liked that better than the Abraham Lincoln.
Either one would be fine, and if it was in a joking light, but in a serious manner, I think it's just all dumb. It's just so stupid.
Yeah, so obviously the hopes were that would turn into a franchise. It didn't work out. There was actually a quote one time where I think Tim Burton said something like, "I'd rather jump out a window than direct a sequel to this," because he hated it as much as everyone else hated it. And then in 2011, we got our next reboot, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, directed by Rupert Wyatt, starring James Franco, Fredo Pinto, John Lithgow, Tom Felton, and Andy Serkis.
This was a great movie.
Yeah, it's really good. I think this is probably, I mean, this is the best. This is one of the best trilogies of recent memory, maybe of all time. The new Planet of the Apes trilogy.
I think they get better each one, honestly.
Yeah, everyone gets better. I haven't seen the last one, but I hear it's better than Dawn, and I like Dawn better than Rise.
Hmm.
So let's talk about some notes on the film. I obviously rewatched it. I don't know if you did. The chimp at the beginning, Caesar's mom, is named Bright Eyes, which is a clear nod to Heston's character, who's called Bright Eyes in the first movie. Bright Eyes is then shot and shown with bullet wounds, like I said, same as the cutscene from Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. I just wanted to know, how did Caesar make it 7 years in a house without being taken by animal shelter, you know? You can't have a chimpanzee as a pet.
I'm pretty sure you can in some states. Des Bryant, football player, has a chimpanzee in Texas. So I feel like if any places, I know actually Sway Lee, who's a rapper, also has a chimp.
Yeah, you're naming fucking millionaires. If you're a millionaire, you could have whatever you want.
I'm just saying, I think in certain states, I bet you it's legal. There's some fucked up shit that's legal in random states. I'm sure you can have a chimp in some of them. There's someone in your guys' old neighborhood that had a pig as a pet. That would walk a pig.
Pig, I guess.
That's a lot more common than a chimp.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, but I still think, I mean, if you can have a pig walk around on a leash, what the fuck is the difference between having an ape that's stuck in your house?
Well, because apes are dangerous.
Yeah, apes can kill people.
Okay, I misspoke. When I say ape, I more meant chimp. Chimps aren't gonna go around, causing that much havoc. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong.
They're definitely like a lot stronger than humans. I don't know the statistics on this, but I've also heard of a thing of a researcher who was working with an ape, a chimp,
And it aged and it matured, and I bet
and
at
it's
that point.
clawed her face off. Yeah, and killed her.
That's pretty sad, actually. When I think, like, I might sound like a total idiot, but when I think of chimps, I think of MVP, most valuable primate.
I think of that too.
Is that that's a chimp, right?
I used to always want a chimp as a pet.
Oh, I loved those movies when I was a kid. MXP, where he's snowboarding, I loved those, man.
I love those
So
too.
I think that maybe because I watched them as a child a lot, I think maybe that skewed my perception of chimps in real life, and so I think they're all nice and they're good at sports.
Any movie with an animal playing a sport, I'm all in.
Air Bud,
love it.
classic. Speaking animals, I was into as a kid. I watched the movie Homeward Bound. If you've ever heard of that, classic. Anyways, though, back to the ape thing. Yeah, well, I mean they're wild animals. But I think it probably is though legal in some places. But
Yeah.
maybe since he's a scientist, it was just chill.
No, but that's also the thing. He stole the monkey from the lab.
That's
It
true.
should be less chill.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely wasn't chill with them.
Yeah. Malfoy's a real dick in
He's
this
the
movie.
worst. He is the absolute worst. I mean, I love him. That's the thing. Like he's
From all his great performances in one franchise. What do you mean you love him? He's only in what else?
He's
have
in
you
Harry
seen him in?
Potter, which I love him in Harry Potter. I mean, I hate him, but I love him. And he's in The Flash. Hate him in The
Oh,
Flash,
yeah.
but I love him.
I guess you watch those too.
And I hate him in this, but he's just so good at the role.
He gets electrocuted, and I'm like, can you get electrocuted from a battery-powered taser? No way.
I'm sure you can if it's
No way.
if it's a taser, it's a taser.
No, it's got to be plugged into an outlet or something to get electrocuted like that.
Well,
I don't know, whatever.
how do tasers work?
I don't know, whatever. I don't think if you get water on them, you're gonna crisp up like he did. And I also thought it was really odd that Franco's character would raise a chimp for 7 years, basically as his own son, and then he'd still test on chimps. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
He still does animal testing on chimps. It's like, what the hell? Where are your morals, dude? That's like if you have a baby and then you test on babies.
I mean, people do test on people.
I don't know if I guess.
I mean,
don't
not.
know.
I mean,
There might-
obviously, willingly.
There might be weird.
I guess it's
moms.
different with animals because there's no consent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. I guess I hadn't really considered that at all.
I just thought it was weird. It's like, dude, what the hell? Then there's the line, "Take your paws off me," which Tom Felton said. And then Caesar replies, "No," and that was so awesome.
Yeah, the scene where he speaks for the first time, it's just, it's weird though because he in the other ones,
They're talking the whole time.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, I guess he's just learning, I guess.
I like that way better because it felt so weird in the other ones at first when they're just normally talking like
Yeah,
humans.
I thought it was weird how like in the other ones he's just basically a person. Although I guess they're trying to lead up to what it would have been in the originals where they're talking like we were
Yeah,
saying earlier, talking and acting completely like humans.
and I like how he starts off and his vocabulary is just no.
But yeah,
He
I
can't
like
really
that.
talk.
That's cool. I honestly, it would be cooler if it was just like very limited like that, and they just did
Yeah.
sign language instead.
On the version you watched, did the sign language have subtitles?
Yeah,
Oh, mine didn't.
no.
So I was wondering. I kind of got what they were going for,
Mhm.
but I was just wondering if that was in all the versions. Okay, so at one point also they run into the zoo and they free the apes, right? I don't know if you remember that scene,
Yeah.
but I was wondering these apes aren't super. They're not advanced. They're just apes.
Well, they're fighting for ape kind. Doesn't matter whether they're intelligent or
No,
not.
but all the apes at the end are acting as if they're advanced.
I guess
So I'm
so,
just
yeah.
saying that was weird. And also, why don't they free all the other animals? Why are apes only trying to liberate apes?
I don't give a fuck about giraffes.
I guess.
Why would they?
I don't know. I thought it was weird. I thought maybe it'd be like an all-out animal kingdom against humanity. Now that's a movie I'd want to see.
That would be pretty cool too. That would be a different movie.
Maurice and the sacrificing gorilla are great. They steal the show. Maurice is the
The orangutan, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're so
Yeah, he's
good.
great.
And it's interesting how you side with the apes in this version. This is the first version where you side
Yeah.
with the apes instead of the humans.
For sure.
And I think that carries on the whole franchise.
Yep.
Maybe not in the third
I
one.
don't know the third one, yeah, but I know in the second one there's some sort of like airstrike that they're trying to call off, and you definitely don't want the apes dying, except for the one that's an asshole.
Koba.
Yeah.
I love Koba in the second one. You don't really see too much of him in the first one.
You see him a couple scenes of him though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you see him a little bit, but I mean, it's
He's
all
the one with
about
like the fucked up eye.
yeah,
I can't really remember.
it's all about Caesar and Maurice and the
Yeah.
gorilla in this one.
hmm
So, like I said, this a prequel to the original? I think you could see it as that if you want.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would kind of help explain how they came to be how they were.
Yeah, I never actually thought about that, but I think that's a pretty good. I don't know if that's a common interpretation, but I think that definitely makes sense in terms of explaining how the chimps came to be the way they are in the original.
I always thought it would be a great script to write a movie where it's just a mission, a space mission, right? That's going wrong. It's the last like 2 hours. They have no contact with the Earth. And they're like, we have to land, we have to land, we have to land. And then they land, and it's just this whole mission of, oh my God, can these guys survive the landing? And then the end reveal is, oh no, but they're on the planet of the apes.
That would be pretty cool.
Don't make it a movie about
It would
Planet of
be
the Apes at all.
pretty
Make
much
it
a
movie
spin-off.
make it a movie about a space shuttle.
Honestly, I think the idea of an Animal Kingdom takeover is actually a very good, a better idea. I think that would be a sick idea, honestly.
All right, so I won't
Talking
work on that
animals, though.
screenplay. I'll work on my Animal Kingdom screenplay.
For anyone listening that's trying to steal that idea, it's already copyrighted.
Yeah.
Patented, copyrighted, all of that, trademarked. Every country in the world has it. We have a trademark it.
We have it timestamped right now.
Don't try. Don't try.
Yeah, don't try shit. Okay, so some facts on the film. Caesar is shown putting together a Statue of Liberty puzzle, so another reference to the original. This is the first installment to feature another ape species besides orangutan, gorilla, and chimpanzee. Koba and some other apes in the lab are bonobos.
Bonobos.
Charlton Heston appears on the TV set in the ape bunkhouse with his film The Agony and Ecstasy playing. And this is the second time that Andy Serkis played an ape. He also played King Kong in Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Which one was Peter Jackson's?
Peter Jackson's is the 2005, the more recent one.
Right. The one with Jack
not the more
Black?
recent one. Yeah, the one with Jack
I
Black.
think there was one after that, but I didn't see that one.
Kong Skull Island, so not that one. And Shia LaBeouf and Tobey Maguire were considered for the lead role.
Toby, our boy.
He's back. He can't get away from us. And the original ending had Franco's character shielding himself from Caesar and soldiers dying in front of him. So let's talk about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the sequel to this in 2014, directed by Matt Reeves, starring Gary Oldman, Jason Clarke, Kerry Russell, Judy Greer, Toby Kebbell, and Andy Serkis. Really good movie. Like I said, I think it's better than Rise, but I still really like Rise and this one.
I was disappointed when James Franco wasn't in it, but I got over it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and then I also was wondering, wait, what happened to James Franco? The fate of James Franco? It's unclear for sure, but
It seems like he died, right?
yeah, well, there was the plague that hit and killed a lot of humanity.
Hmm.
And then there's the one scene where Caesar goes back to Franco's old
And he
house.
looks at the videotapes and stuff.
Yeah, and he also sees an X on the door, and it's presumed that that X means that he was infected,
Mm.
most likely died.
Hmm.
And you also see his car in the front, so if
Right.
he, it's assumed that if he lived, he probably would have taken his car and left. It's also interesting you say that you see James Franco in it. James Franco actually didn't film that. That was used from the first film, and he had no idea that he was going to be in this
Oh,
film.
really? They didn't say anything to him, eh?
Yeah,
I
he
mean, I
was
guess
poor
they
as
don't
hell.
really have to, technically.
I don't know how it works with films. I guess you probably do own all the footage, and if it's part
Yeah.
of a franchise, you could just use it.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. But yeah, that's probably pretty rattling as James Franco.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a small, very small scene, and it's
Yeah.
kind of not very clear. You don't really clearly see his face, so I guess whatever. But yeah, I would understand why he would be a little rattled by that.
And some references in the film. There's characters named Ash and Rocket, which is a reference to Pokemon, and there's an ape throwing burning barrels, which is a reference to Donkey Kong.
I never would have even thought about that.
Well, it's just some cute little things. And then in 2017, we get War for the Planet of the Apes, directed by Matt Reeves, starring Woody Harrelson, Steve Zahn, Judy Greer, and Andy Serkis. I haven't seen this one yet. I really want to. I probably should have seen it.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna watch this one, especially when you just said Woody Harrelson's in it. Gotta see it.
So I don't want to look too much into it because I don't want to be spoiled. But there is the mutation of the simian flu, rendering humans mute and mindless, which is kind of foreshadowing the events of the
Hmm.
1968's film. So it does kind of point that this whole franchise is a prequel to
Right?
that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
And at one point, the Overlook Hotel, which is the hotel from The Shining, appears in the film.
Really? Yeah, interesting. When I watch it, I'm gonna be looking out for that.
So let's talk about franchise earnings. The original series cost 14.6 million.
All right, I'm gonna guess.
How much it gross?
Oh wait, are we talking?
The original series.
This is the whole series, not.
Yeah, so the 5 films from 1968 to
Oh,
1974.
and it costs how much?
14.6 million.
14.6 being the first movie or the whole series?
All 5 of
Really?
those movies.
That's
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Well, just consider how much less technology they would have needed for the effects, I guess, compared to now.
All right, I'm just gonna tell
No,
you.
no, 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 no. I'm guessing earnings of. I'm just gonna guess. Let's say 200 million.
It was 160 million. So not a
Not
bad
far.
guess, but a huge return.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if most of that came from the first one, though, or maybe the first two, because they expected it to continue to be really good.
Well, here's what they did. The first one cost them around $9-10 million to make, and then after that they slashed the budget from every film. It was like at 8 million, and they slashed it to 4,
Mm.
and they slashed it to 2, they slashed it to 1.5.
Hmm.
So every time it cost less money, and every time they'd make less money, but they'd always make still money.
Right.
So it was very successful. The remake cost $100 million.
Remake like Tim Burton remake.
Yep, one movie,
Grossed 102 million.
$362 million.
Yeah, all you need is the right names.
Yeah, still financially successful.
Yeah.
The reboot cost $413 million. That's 3 films, and it grossed
1.3 billion.
$1.68 billion.
Wow.
Still pretty close though at like almost 1.7 billion dollars. That's pretty good for 3 movies. Jeez.
Yeah, it's great.
How much did you say? 300 million roughly for the 3 of them?
For how much it cost? 450, and it is an expensive franchise because it's all CGI.
Yeah, everything.
But if it's still making the return, why not? So that's a total franchise cost of 567.5 million, and it grossed 2.35 billion.
Which one is that?
The whole thing,
Oh, all of the.
all the films, and that's not including the money received from merchandising. Which, like I said, this was one of the first merchandising tie-in franchises of all time.
Uh-huh.
So that's action figures, comics, etc., games, whatever.
Pretty successful franchise.
It is. It was interesting though when I looked up the most successful franchises. This was late 20s, early 30s,
Mm.
so not even that high. So let's do our Rotten Tomatoes thing. Do you have any guess what the highest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes was?
I'm gonna say, let's just say, War of the Planet of the Apes.
I'm going to go with either the 68 one, the original, or the 2011 one.
The answer is War for the Planet of the Apes. So the newest one, 2017 at 93%, and the lowest one, this might be hard for you to guess.
Tim Burton's.
You're agreeing, Tim Burton's? It's actually Battle for the Planet of the Apes at
The
37%.
like the fourth or fifth one of the original.
Battle for the Planet of the Apes. I think that is the fourth one. Yeah, 37%. So that's an average tomato ranking of
That's pretty
66.66%.
bad.
It's not terrible. It's
I mean,
still
I guess it's
fresh.
over a whole bunch of movies, but
Hmm.
I mean, I if I saw that on like if I was looking for a movie and I saw it had a 66% rating, I probably wouldn't watch it.
Well, that's an okay. Yeah,
It's an average rating though, but also, what do you have the numbers for
I don't have all
the
the
three
numbers.
recent ones? I'm curious
I
about
will
that.
say the three recent ones were all in the 90s.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering.
So those ones are all
Hmm.
in the 90s, and then a bunch of the sequels to the original aren't that well
The
reviewed.
original I know is in the high 80s also.
Yeah. So there's four that are really good of a total nine.
So there's some outliers, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So what can you do? 4 out of 9 though. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Almost batting 500. Almost. So some awards and recognition. At the Academy Awards, Planet of the Apes 1968 was nominated for costume design and original score. Rise, Dawn, War of the Planet of the Apes, all of them were nominated for visual effects. And at the BAFTAs, Planet of the Apes 2001 was nominated for Best Costume Design, Hair and Makeup, and Rise, Dawn, and War were all nominated for Best Special Visual Effects. You know, it's weird they didn't win. That's crazy they didn't win, actually. Rise, Dawn, or War.
Do you know what did?
No, but that's crazy. Probably a Star Wars.
I don't know.
2011, I don't know. At the Grammy Awards, Planet of the Apes in 2001 was nominated for Best Score Soundtrack Album for a Motion Picture. And at the Razzie Awards, 2001's Planet of the Apes was nominated. No, it actually won for Worst Remake or Sequel, Worst Supporting Actor, Charlton Heston, and Worst Supporting Actress
Okay,
for Estelle Warren.
wanted to clarify, but you basically just did. The Razzies are the worst movie awards, right?
Yeah. It did get some love at the Academy, not the Academy, but other award shows,
Yeah.
but it still got ripped apart. Let's step away from Planet of the Apes now, and let's talk about the year of 1996 in film. This was all being talked about in 1995, so let's assume it would have came out in 1996. So the highest grossing films of the year: number 1, Independence Day at 817 million. Number 2, Twister, 494 million. Number 3, Mission Impossible, 458 million. Number 4, The Rock, 333 million. Number 5, The Hunchback of Notre Dame at 325 million. And rounding up the top 10 were 101 Dalmatians, Ransom, The Nutty Professor, Jerry Maguire, and Eraser. So Arnold Schwarzenegger made it on with Eraser. Planet of the Apes would have 100% made it on this list. 100%.
A lot of those are like animated Disney movies. Like I don't know. I feel like this maybe it would have, but
Well, Eraser is the 10 film, and that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. That would have 100% been knocked off for another bigger Arnold Schwarzenegger franchise film.
yeah. I guess I mean especially I mean take out all the added Fox things like the monkeys playing baseball, and maybe you're right.
I think it still would have made it.
Even with the shitty Fox editions.
Yeah. Okay, so some other notable films of the year: Fargo, Scream, Trainspotting, Mars Attacks, From Dusk Till Dawn, Happy Gilmore, The Cable Guy, Romeo and Juliet, Space Jam, and Star Trek First Contact. So pretty big year for film.
Hmm. Space Jam.
Yeah. I'm surprised Star Trek didn't make the top 10. That's weird. And The English Patient won for Best Film at the 69th Academy Awards. Some births of the year: Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones, Abigail Breslin, Little Miss Sunshine,
Which one's Sophie Turner? Is she
the redhead.
yeah, what's her name again? Can't remember. Anyways, yeah, okay.
Abigail Breslin, Little Miss Sunshine, Anya Taylor-Joy from Split, Tom Holland and Zendaya, Spider-Man, and Haley Steinfeld from True Grit. Deaths of the year: Gene Kelly, George Burns, Ella Fitzgerald, and Tupac Shakur. And this is also the last aired episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Sad year.
And some debuts we have: Will Arnett in Close Up, Selma Blair in The Broccoli Theory, Joel Edgerton in Race the Sun, Mila Kunis in Santa with Muscles, Edward Norton, Primal Fear. I don't know why I said Edward Norton, Primal Fear. Octavia Spencer, A Time to Kill, Julia Stiles, I Love You Not, Owen and Luke Wilson in Bottle Rocket, and making his directorial debut, Wes Anderson with Bottle Rocket.
Luke and Owen debuting together.
Well, and Wes Anderson debuted that for directing it.
Right, I'm just saying the brothers. I didn't know. I wouldn't have thought they debuted in their first film together.
They're not brothers.
Luke and Owen Wilson.
I thought they were married. Wait, are you serious? Or are
Yeah.
you yanking my
No,
chain?
I'm 99% sure. Now, can you look this up?
Wow.
No, I want to know. I'm pretty sure they're
No,
brothers
I'm
though.
just joking. They're 100% brothers.
Okay.
And in July 10th, Nickelodeon Studios releases their first feature film, Harriet the Spy, and that also is the acting debut for Michelle Trachtenberg. Happy Madison Productions is founded by Adam Sandler. Third Rock from the Sun, Seventh Heaven, Everybody Loves Ray, The Daily Show, Arthur, Judge Judy, The Crocodile Hunter, Dragon Ball Z, Dexter's Laboratory, and the launch of Fox News. All
Few of
in this
those I
year.
loved.
Which ones?
Dragon Ball Z, obviously. I mean, if you didn't watch that, then you really missed out. And then
Arthur, bro.
Arthur, yeah. There was another one that you said, Dexter's Lab.
Dexter's Lab's good, yeah. Everybody Loves Ray is pretty good. It's crazy Arthur's still on. 1996. It's still on the
You know,
air.
it's a staple of childhood.
Arthur was honestly my favorite show as a kid. Like literally my number one show. Maybe Scooby Doo, but Arthur was there definitely up there. Is it? I know it's still on the air, but is it still new episodes?
Well, yeah, when I looked it up, it said continuing, so I think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I mean,
It's probably cheap.
I always see, when I was a counselor at camp, I was for like 5-year-olds, they all loved Arthur books and stuff. Like, I guess they're all still watching it, so I imagine they're still making it.
Rent opens off Broadway, and then they would actually, I think, win the Tony later that year too. Jay-Z and the Spice Girls released their first studio album. George R. Martin publishes Game of Thrones, the first in the series. Kobe Bryant becomes the youngest player to debut in the NBA, and Wayne Gretzky becomes the first and only player in the history to reach a 3,000 point plateau, which I don't even know what that means.
It means that he had over 3,000 points in his career, but I don't know.
You think someone might have beat it?
No, no,
Serge?
no. Certainly no one's beat it. But I, mean, I thought it was maybe 2,000. But at any rate, yeah, that's what it means.
Mhm. And Nintendo releases the Nintendo 64.
The greatest console possibly ever made.
I was gonna say the same thing. I think it is the greatest console of all
I'm so
ever made.
depressed that I lost mine.
Yeah, it's
I
brutal.
had a Nintendo 64, perfect condition, tons of classic games, 4 controllers, everything you could want, and I lost it.
Just go buy another one. What's it gonna cost you? Like
Yeah,
$1,000?
like 1,000 or so, at least. If I wanted to replace, seriously, if I wanted to replace everything I lost, it would probably cost $1,500 to $2,000.
Seriously, how could a system made 23 years ago be that good?
It's just rare now. Yeah, but I know how did they figure it out? They figured it out, and they haven't even matched. I mean, sure, Fortnite's great, but does it have 007 GoldenEye? No.
All right, so I mean, that's it. That's everything from 1996. That's everything from Planet of the Apes. That's everything from us at the greatest movies never made. It was great to catch up with you. It was great having my good friend Eli Berman here.
Thanks again for having me, boys. It was a pleasure, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I certainly did.
Yeah, and it was good to be back joined by my co-host Adam Spring.
Thank you for having me as well, again, as usual.
Any plugs, boys? Nothing?
Go check out our Twitter at the greatest movies never made.
Yeah, our Twitter is actually Never Made Movies. You could follow us there. If you want, you can follow me at Twitter at Ryan Presky1. Hilarious tweets. You'll love it.
Honestly, Prusky is a very, very, I'm not just saying this, very objectively funny Twitter, so you should follow it.
Objectively, it's very funny, so you should follow it. And if you have any concerns, any comments, any suggestions for future episodes, email us at thegreatestmoviesnevermade@gmail.com.
You know, I would just like to say, because we were talking about Hitler earlier and whether we would kill him or not, I just want to make it clear, I definitely
would.
want Hitler dead. I just want to make sure everyone knows that.
I mean, now that you're saying that, I feel like I also have to stress that, but I also still stand by that if Hitler was killed, then history would be drastically altered. But I still think he should. Yeah, never mind.
We'd all kill it. We'd all kill Hitler. That's what we're saying. Okay, so from everyone here, the greatest movies never made.
Fuck Hitler.
Fuck Hitler, and we'll see you next week.